Good Friday afternoon or evening, wherever you may be. Thanks for joining us live here. If you are with us live, if you're watching the replay, thanks for hanging out with us for a few minutes. My name is Darren Pope. This over here is Victor Farsick, and we're the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, we do this live show. Most Fridays. We might be taking next Friday off. I haven't decided yet. And we talk about the things of the week. The thing of this week is Victor can't get his camera right, and that's fine. I've seen Victor this week probably more, not in person, but virtually, I think, than I've seen my wife this week. It's been one of those weeks.
Is this a lucky wife or lucky me situation?
Like a what? Say it again?
Is this lucky wife or lucky me situation?
Let's say lucky wife.
Okay.
We've just had a lot going on this week, which has been good. We're going to get right into it today, just because there's a lot going on. But to Joculator, you are the first, and Sebastian, good to see you. Thanks for being here with us live today. I am running without a net. We always run without a net here, but this week my internet has been super, super bad. So if I drop out, Victor will just take over and keep on going, at least till I get back. But I found out something neat about Monterey, and I don't know if it existed before Big Sur or not. But you can tether your phone to your computer, and if your primary internet goes out, it'll fail over to your phone. Now, if you do that with your phone, make sure you turn off Wi-Fi on your phone, because that won't help you any.
Yeah, because then tethering doesn't work on your phone.
Right, because your phone was connected to Wi-Fi, you're no longer connected to the internet. Yeah, so you have to make sure you switch over to whatever service it is.
I think that tethering doesn't work with Wi-Fi. That doesn't matter what happens
really?
afterwards. Yeah.
It worked for me. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jivaden, good to see you. Hey, first time. Luis, thanks for hanging out with us today. Are people back from vacation? Some people are, but not many. They're starting to trickle back in.
Slowly.
Karen, good to see you. Slowly, but there were some, like a lot of my Spaniard, what's the proper way to say it? They started showing back up this week. Spanish? People in Spain. What's the proper way to say people in Spain?
Spaniards.
Okay.
Españoles.
Spaniards. Let's get into it. So this week's podcast was with Maxime from Zesty, and talking about how to manage your cloud cost programmatically. But it wasn't just programmatically. It was very interesting how they do it. You may be, and they only work with AWS. I believe that's still true. And they do it by fractionalizing the reserved instances, which reserved is nothing more than a billing thing. So this was quite interesting. And we all boiled down to one thing. How the heck do you fractionalize storage? And that's hard. But it can be done. So anyway, that's this week's episode. Episodes come out on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to get into the rest of it. We have a lot of news to cover today. Unlike the past couple of weeks where there have been zero news. Did you want to say anything about Zesty before we continue on?
You said it all.
Okay. Got it. So, Microsoft DevBox Preview has now shipped. So, what this means is, it's not like, what's the GitHub one? Codespaces. Codespaces or Gitpod. But it is in some sort of a way. So what DevBox gives you is a project-specific workspace. So you don't have a PC. It's like, I've got a project, and it's got this. So I guess it is more like Codespaces than it is anything else.
The more you speak about it,
the more
talk about it. Like
I know.
Maybe the kind of, since Microsoft competition is AWS, they're trying to copy AWS, and that means that you need at least 57 services that do the same thing.
Could be.
With slight variations.
Yep. Supports any developer IDE, SDK, or tool that runs on Windows. So my guess is it's not in browser, it's actually Windows. I don't know. That would be sad if it was. But anyway, basically, you've got just different workspaces. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. Because I don't need to buy a GPU and keep everything on that. I would like to be able to have machines that are built to do certain things. Or if I'm doing x86 versus ARM, right? It'd be nice to have. I don't know if they're doing that or not, so don't quote me on that. But it'd be nice to have the hardware that I might need. Maybe.
Maybe that DevBox, and I'm really guessing here because I haven't used it. Maybe the difference between this and CodeSpaces is that it gives you kind of the machine. CodeSpaces gives you a server.
Correct.
But this maybe gives you a remote laptop, kind of, with whatever tools Windows users use today, which I don't know. But
right. I don't know. So anyway, this is now in preview. They've been talking about it for a while, but it's now there. So what is the deal? During the period, organizations get the first 15 hours of the DevBox 8 vCPU and 32 gig SKU for free every month, along with the first 365 hours of DevBox storage 512. Why are we talking SKUs? Use human words, please. Come on. I don't understand why they do this, but it's Microsoft. So DevBox preview, in case you're interested, go take a look at it. So it supports what? That's what we're asking right now. So let's move on to the next thing. Kubernetes 1.25. Are you ready for this, Victor? We're actually going to visit this in a few minutes too.
go for it.
Okay. So it's not released yet, but usually when Sysdig does this, it comes out about a week after. So all the things, 40 enhancements, which is right on par with what they were doing in 24 and 23. We got 13 going to stable, 10 improvements, 15 new, and 2 deprecations. PSPs are gone in this release.
Okay, I already mourned them, so it's fine.
Right. But as I'm saying is now they're really gone. Not for the 15th time of gone. A bunch of other things that are going on here, and things getting into GA state. CSI migration, okay, 3 years. Port ranges for network policies, ephemeral volumes, and support for cgroups v2. These were the ones they called out. Support for user namespaces. Are you excited about that? Not excited? Don't care?
Yeah, I mean, depends kind of. Most of those improvements are behind the scenes type of improvements, right? You will not notice them much as a user. But it will make it better.
Yep. Retriable, and again, these are Sysdig's preferences here. But let's get down to the deprecations, because this is where I was spending most of, they have their opinions, and that's fine. And usually I agree with their opinions, but right now Kubernetes is so boring. I don't
exactly
right, but it's the deprecations and the removals that aren't boring, because for those of us deploying apps or writing apps that get deployed to Kubernetes, this is what will bite us because we weren't paying attention, if you will. So all these betas are now gone. Cron job, I think, is the biggest one of these. Maybe horizontal pod autoscaler.
I mean, both of them have a V1 for a while now.
A long time, right? But now these are...
No, actually, wait, am I wrong if I say that HPA has already V2, actually? I think.
Okay.
Not sure.
Regardless, this one's going to be gone.
This is what I said to Renovate folks, and then I'm saying to everyone, this is a business opportunity. If somebody could send me PRs or something on my repos.
And you just go through and punch the button.
I mean, those changes to APIs, they require changes more than just a change of the API. You might need to refactor the manifest. But even if those PRs are not giving me refactor of my manifests, kind of, at least the notification kind of, hey, this API is deprecated. At least that.
Yeah. The other things here, support for entry volumes have been moved for Gloucester, Flocker. Don't say that 5 times fast. Kubeite and Storage OS removed kubectl run unused flags, and a bunch of other things. And they get into details about pod security policy, which, again, you said we've mourned that a long time ago, so it doesn't really matter. Right?
Yeah, we don't have a real replacement yet, but yeah.
Doesn't that bug you a little bit?
As a standard.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, there are many replacements. It's, admission controllers ultimately.
But not standards.
Caverno.
But not a standard.
Not a standard, yeah.
Right.
But I suspect it will be similar fate like ingresses and service meshes, that after a while of back and forth, now we got Gateway API. We'll probably get something similar.
Right. So all the links for everything we're talking about today will be in the show notes later today or tomorrow, so you can click off and read all these yourself. Going from the sad to a little more happy, External Secrets Operator has now been accepted into the Sandbox.
Yay! Big yay!
This is from Container Solutions. Have you played with this at all?
Oh yeah, I did. I have a video.
Oh, you have a video about this? Was it an old video, probably? Okay.
No, like 2 months, give or take.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, am I confusing this with something else? I am. External Secret. I am, because you talked about Vault, you talked about all the other things in that video. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, this is now Sandbox. So how long until we get to incubating and then eventually released? Okay, release will be a long time. But now's a good time to look at this, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's been for a while now that's potentially the best solution for whomever wants to have
Secrets.
agnostic solution to get secrets from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm stressing agnostic because, if you're into Vault, then you might want to just go with Vault Operator, right?
But if you've got multiple things you need to pull from, this is that abstraction.
Yeah, exactly.
So Container Solutions, EA,
they
GoDaddy.
implemented.
Yeah.
This is one of those cases where actually I'm so pleased that they implemented the feature that I craved for. That's to push secrets over there.
Right.
Now we're talking.
Right. So anyway, this is now in Sandbox. And go watch Victor's video about it. I do remember that one now. It has been recent. Post that I saw this week, why your daily stand-ups don't work and how to fix them. Well, first off, why your daily stand-ups don't work. Period. You don't need to fix them. Or do you? I don't.
That's greatly how distributed the company is.
Correct.
Where I am right now, we have a problem with stand-ups because simply East Coast, West Coast, and Europe, all the way until Turkey, right?
Right.
In our case. Somebody suffers if we have daily stand-ups.
Right. So what are you doing? Are you doing weekly-ish?
First split into different groups based on geography and putting more emphasis on written material than verbal.
Right. So let's take a look at how this was attacked. If your stand-ups take longer than 15 minutes, if people talk about their work instead of talking about the goals, okay, first off, that means you have to have a goal. People stop showing up regularly. People talk to their manager or scrum master, don't get me started, instead of talking to their peers. If the manager or scrum master can't show up, the stand-up doesn't happen. If your team is experiencing 3 or more of these symptoms, the diagnosis is clear, your stand-ups are useless. I think if even one of these is true, your stand-ups are useless.
Here's a question for you, Darin.
Okay.
Did you ever work? I don't mean I'm excluding customers from this, but did you work in a company on your team that had a Scrum Master?
No, never.
I was thinking now, kind of like Scrum Master, and then I couldn't remember the name of a Scrum Master, and realized no, I never had a Scrum Master. Does that mean that we are kind of like not progressive people, or we are too progressive?
Never had Scrum Master, and the only place I've ever worked where we did daily stand-ups, and they only lasted for about 2 weeks. The manager never came to the daily stand-up. We self-organized it and did it ourselves. And we decided after 2 weeks this is a waste of time. So we quit doing them. So wait a minute. So Jivan, I've seen this happen. A Scrum Master and an Agile Coach. Why do those two titles even exist? I don't need an Agile Coach. I need somebody to get the blockers out of my way. And an Agile Coach is not that purpose. That's a manager.
I mean, the purpose of Agile Coach is, to teach you how to be agile, whatever that means. I'm not entering now into the game what that is, but kind of that's the purpose. What I'm more questioning is why isn't the Scrum Master Agile coach? Without now questioning whether that should exist, right? But why are those two different roles?
Yeah. And what he says, so that consulting companies can make money. Yes. And their frameworks and everything else. Okay. So anyway, this is pretty good. And the guy goes into detail about how to correctly try to resolve the problems with your stand-ups. I'm not I guess I am anti-stand-up. I go more for the written. And having stuff like Slack, it's like, put a question in. Anybody got any problems? Nope. Okay. Everybody go off to your corners. Yell if you need help. I'm here, or I'm not here. I'm out for an hour if you need anything, right? Those kinds of communication, people. It's all about communication. And if you're only talking to people once a day for 15 minutes, that's not communication.
But my understanding, and I might be wrong, behind the idea of daily stand-up is precisely that people do not communicate enough, so we are going to enforce that communication to daily stand-ups, and we're going to make it a stand-up so that it's short and doesn't end up being so popular, right? But if I'm right in that means that actually is extremely useful when you have that problem. Once you solve the problem of people not communicating, then you do not necessarily need stand-up, right? It's kind of like a medicine, right? You need an aspirin when your head hurts, but the moment it stops hurting, you don't continue taking it, right?
Yeah, it was like when I had COVID a few weeks ago. I was taking something to help with chills and a headache. And once I got over those symptoms, I quit taking it. Actually, I took it like 1 or 2 more times until I was good. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to take it anymore. Didn't need it. That's a good analogy. So anyway, that's about stand-ups. And something else sort of ballpark to this. There was a post on Mattermost this week. Mattermost has an open source, I don't want to be Slack-like tool. Yeah, I was going to say chat, but it does more than that. So I don't want to be derogatory to that. But they posted this blog post about companies are concerned with open source security and why devs may need to ditch GitHub. So they get into all this stuff, but and they didn't write the post I'm getting ready to send you off to, but there is the Software Freedom Conservancy. Devs need to ditch GitHub. And they go into a scathing post that was over on that site. So basically I'm using the Mattermost post to get us over to there. And they're talking around AI pair programming, right? You use Copilot, I've used Copilot. Mm-hmm. I have some ethical concerns from it because I know it's not writing code. It's been scraping and learning.
Correct.
And it's really helped me out. I will say that. But where does that fall? Because how do I know that the code that it just gave me was a truly open source enough for me to actually be able to use what was produced from it? Again, I'm not a lawyer, right? And we're not going to get into that part of it.
But if I continue that thought, that would then actually, this title should be changed, that kind of non-open source.
Correct. So this is the post from June 30th. I don't know how this got past us. I really dislike how they're presenting GitHub here. But again, that's my opinion, and that's okay. So you get it, they go into all the things that we were just talking about, Copilot here in specific. And they go into a lot more blah, 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 because these guys are what they are. But where is the list that I saw here? Anyway, their recommendations are to leave GitHub. So this was the post, but then there's another site that's called giveupgithub.org. So if I take a look at that site, what they're saying is Copilot is a for-profit product. Yes.
So?
How many of the products that are produced out of companies today are reliant on open source projects?
To begin with, most open source projects are for profit. Let's start with that. Almost all open source projects are for profit. Kubernetes is for profit, right? service mesh is Istios, Linkerd is monitoring, observing, whatever you want. A significant amount of bigger projects, so I'm excluding those, tiny ones, are for profit. And that's good. I do not want to have open source that is exclusively for non-profit. I don't want that. And the reason why I don't want that is because everybody needs to pay their bills. And if you want dedicated people on projects, those projects need to be financed somewhere. There is no successful open source project, bigger one, that has only occasional contributors. No such thing.
Yeah. And I understand their arguments here. I even agree with them up to a point. But then I don't want to go. And again, these people I assume are lawyers, so I'm going to be very careful in what I say here. And they go into some other things here, but let's go past all the points where they're arguing. How do I give up GitHub? Okay. Let's go down to the point here. Resources to give up GitHub. Alternative hosting services. Codeberg and SourceHut. Are these free? I don't know.
No idea.
I don't know. Self-hosting. Gitty. GitLab Community Edition. But then they get into, note that the GitHub Enterprise Edition, which is provided to the public at gitlab.com, is like GitHub, a trade secret proprietary vendor lock-in software. And also SourceHut. So again, they're recommending that you self-host all of your Git servers.
First of all, I don't want to self-host open source. I don't have time for that. We can discuss whether self-hosting or self-managed or managed service for something that is business in a company with secrets and what's not is a good or a bad idea. That's a valid discussion. But if you're talking about open source, I want to do less. I want to focus because time is very limited. Every open source project has a problem with time. And now, on top of that, I should host my own Git for my big project. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And not only Git, I don't want to host anything.
Anything. And this is where, I'm going to get to the comments in just a second around this, and then we're going to move on. But if I was to self-host, and it became a Kubernetes level project, now I'm paying egress fees for the network traffic of everybody cloning my stuff. And all the other things that go along with. Actually, it's not that I'm just running a Git server. I've got to pay for the network. And I've got to pay somebody to maintain that server and add more disks and deal with downtime and 24/7. No.
So kind of like those servers, are they going to be kind of like in your basement? Is that going to be a decision for a serious open source project?
Probably, because I'm not going to have enough money to put it and co-locate it in a hosting facility.
Yeah, but that's already kind of like against the idea because you don't want to use a service from somebody for profit to do this thing. So you better buy a server and put it below the desk.
Yeah, but if I follow this, and again, I'm taking it to the extreme. If I'm following this, then I'm assuming, and this is I'm not going to go there. But the internet provider is making money. So I'm not going further on that. Let's talk about these. Again, this is the point that I'm in agreement with you on, Sebastian. If we make the assumption that GitHub only scanned the public repositories, right? And they should have. If they went beyond that, that's questionable, right? So that would be shady. But let's assume they did that. It's still an issue depending on which licenses they scanned off of. So if it wasn't MIT or the more permissive licenses and they pulled that in, even though it's quote unquote open source, okay, that wasn't good either. How much money is going from big corps to curl OpenSSL? 0, I bet. Near 0. But, and we can't really compare apples to apples here, but SQLite, which is not open source, by the way. Did you know this?
Yeah, it's maintained by a single person, right?
Well, it's a small team of people, but it's public domain, which is different than open source. because go read the history on it, and you'll understand why they did it the way that they did it. The guy that started it said, based at the time, that was the easiest way to do it. Think about it. It's 20 plus years old. Is it me, or is this article a bit dogmatic? Yes. It's not just you. It's not just you.
I do think that there are issues with Copilot, and those can eventually maybe lead to people leaving GitHub. I'm not even saying that we shouldn't move projects from GitHub somewhere else, but you need to give me a valid alternative. That's what I'm saying. It cannot be hocus pocus something under my desk. That's all I'm saying here.
Exactly. Okay. So let's move on to something happier. Because I want to be careful in how I say this, because I don't want to throw everybody under the bus and completely just say my opinions, which would then put us all in sorts of weird positions that we don't want to be in. But here's the happy, happy, joy, joy. Amazon has published a blueprint for working with EKS and Argo CD. Have you looked at the Amazon or the AWS blueprints at all?
A few, yes.
A few.
Not
So
this one, though.
This is a new one. Brand-ish new. Yeah, the 18th. That was yesterday, I think. So they take you through the whole blueprint of how to do it. There's the picture. Dev, test, prod. Dev, test, account, separate accounts. Doing things the right way. And how they do it. So if you've been wondering how to do EKS with Argo CD, there's now a simple way of doing it. In fact, if you're using the CDK, you just call the blueprint up and it does it for you.
Nice. They're really doing a great job with those blueprints. Sometimes maybe too detailed, but otherwise good.
Yep. And this is super long. I don't know if you can see the progression, but we're not even halfway down yet. So this is very detailed.
Sometimes maybe I would like their blueprints to be split into, hey,
here's the short.
5 minutes quick
There's
start.
the long.
Exactly. And then find out all the details.
Right. That's where you order the pizza in to go through the details. Or ice cream. Which would you prefer, ice cream or pizza?
Pizza, always.
Pizza. Okay. So that blueprint is there. Our friends over at Aqua have gone one step further. Now, instead of just scanning things locally, they're now scanning your infrastructure. How do you feel about that?
I feel great. I think that that's very useful.
This came out, I believe, in the 0.31.2 release this week. If you haven't used Trivy before, you should, number one. In fact, we had Sid on yesterday over on DevOps Toolkit, and he was talking about Trivy. Of course, Anais was around yesterday too, and was like, okay, she's here, we have to talk about Trivy, right? That's what it was about. But now the Trivy experience comes to AWS. I guess it's AWS only at this point, yes, based on this. So now you've got a single scanner that is doing multiple things. That's where I start breaking down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean...
Not in a bad way, but it's like, are you doing too much? That's where the questions come into play.
Absolutely. But there is always that, and I'm always having trouble finding that balance. Do you want the balance between having many specialized tools with the headache of managing many specialized tools, or fewer tools that are having a bit wider scope, right?
Yep.
And there is, of course, that every company ultimately that becomes successful needs to expand horizontally one way or another, right?
Yeah. So congrats to everybody at Aqua for moving off of disk and into the network. It's going to be interesting. I wonder who's next. Azure, probably.
Probably.
DaprCon 2022. You could go to DaprCon.
Wait, is that in Detroit or?
It is.
Okay, so it's a co-located event.
It's a community day event at KubeCon NA.
Nice.
9 to 5 on the 25th. So there's no way you can do a hallway track on that day because there is no convention at that point. This is prior to that.
There are too many collocated events. I will need to start choosing.
Yep. But anyway, so if you're going to be at KubeCon and you're going to be there on the 25th and you've already bought your ticket or you have a paid ticket, because I'm assuming this is probably a paid ticket only, it's included with the purchase of the registration. I don't know if... Yeah, that's what it says right here. DaprCon is free with the purchase of the registration.
Okay, nice.
But that's what I'm saying is free with purchase of. So if you're getting a comp because you're speaking, then you probably don't count. Okay, that's Dapper. Okay, lots of tools this week. Are you ready for some tools? We haven't had any in the past few weeks.
Hit me.
Some of these are questionable.
Okay.
But I'll call them out anyway.
Makes it more fun.
Yeah. Actually, this gets us right before we get into the tools. We talked about GitHub earlier. GitHub Actions, there is a proposal on the roadmap to where the self-hosted runners, you will be able to use Kubernetes for your runners and not have to have a static runner.
That's probably very cool, very nice. I still, in my head, I have that picture of GitHub Actions says, I do not host it type of solution. So my brain ignores those.
Right, but a lot of people have these traditional self-hosted runners, right? So you've got a static Mac or a static Linux or a static Windows laying around. But now, if you have your own Kubernetes cluster, the way I'm reading this roadmap item, be able to use the GitHub UI to get the learn and get the tools, the learnings maybe, to deploy a self-hosted auto-scaling runner. Be reflected back in their GUI, giving them the information they need to manage these queues and understand where the bottlenecks are. This could be interesting. Could be interesting.
For those who do use self-hosted runners for GitHub Actions, this is a great improvement.
Yes. Okay, now we get into the tools. First one here, I just saw a few hours ago. It's called Task, T-S-K. I'm assuming it's tsk, 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 whatever it is. So you can, all right, whether this is useful or not, I'm not going to get into it. This falls into, to me, this falls into the yes, but why category. So you can create and manage your tasks efficiently from your terminal so that you can dump your mouse. Okay, that's not a reason to dump a mouse. But shiny task management systems often have web apps, often have unnecessary features causing UI glitches which impact our UX. I use Remember the Milk. I've been paying for it for well over a decade, maybe even 15 years. Not a problem. Loading huge JS chunks and loading network calls in every smallest action. Okay. It's 2022. Right. Okay. That's what I'm saying is this is the why not. But anyway, okay, so we'll get into it. So it's Go. They got releases for it. Here's how you do it. Task make new make coffee. Makes sense, right? It's using BoltDB under the hood for its persistence layer. And you can create a new task with status and priority. Okay, right? I'm still okay with that. You can list the tasks with filters. You can view the tasks on a Kanban board. That's nifty. Because remember, Milk doesn't have Kanban. I wish it did. But Trello, I guess, right? Because that's what you use primarily.
Yeah.
Mark task as to do. So as you're moving things through the Kanban board. That's cool, right? Because I haven't seen anybody do a lightweight Kanban. Like, this is the way Kanban should be. If your Kanban board has 15 swim lanes, you're doing it wrong. That's not Kanban. Anyway, adding notes, all the other things.
This is kind of cool, but only for people who do not work with others.
Correct.
And who are always on the same machine.
Correct.
And I fail in both cases.
Correct. But it's cool, right? It's cool to an extent, but not based
I
on.
need my task to be accessible everywhere. Laptop, desktop, phone.
Everywhere all the
that's a
time.
requirement today, kind of. I cannot do it without it.
I don't have my phone with me, but I have an iPhone. You know, on the iPhone, I'm assuming it's the same on Android. There's buttons all across the bottom. Normally, you have your phone button there, and your hot buttons. One of those four for me is remember the milk.
Yeah.
Because I hardly use my phone for anything, except for capturing notes when I'm out. All goes into remember the milk. Okay, but it's. Okay.
It's like I've been calling out all the time. That one. I have 2 cats, so whenever they start scratching something, I use.
Okay, I put eksctl here, not because it's new and hot and everything else. But they added support for Kubernetes 123. Again, this is for EKS because they just added support for 123.
Yeah.
But here, the reason why I put this here is because of this. Because it reminded me. They removed support for 119.
It's a year old
Plus.
version. So.
Yeah. So the reason why I put this here is if you're still running Kubernetes less than 120, you're running on borrowed time.
Yeah, just don't touch it.
Right. This is one of those cases where it's like, oh, this is still a Windows NT4 machine. Don't touch it. If it ever powers down or you lose the power supply, go buy power supplies that you can probably get them off eBay now, right? And replace the capacitors and get them ready because that's the only way that machine's going to keep running. That's the reason why I put that there. It was just as a reminder, 119 is dead. Gone. Remember, 125 is coming out next weekish.
Something like that, yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Moving along. Lazytrivy. We talked about Trivy earlier. Well, now there's lazytrivy. Did you hear about this?
No, what does it do?
You remember Charm? The TUI? All the stuff?
Uh-huh.
So basically he wrote a wrapper for Trivy without having to remember the command line argument. So basically he has K9est Trivy.
Okay, cool.
That's the way I say it.
Very cool.
And it's based off of lazy docker, lazy npm, lazy git, which I've never used any of these either. So now if you watch it, you can go through and here's all the little commands you can run at the bottom and scans, and you can just go through the TUI and move around. Look, I was building green screen apps in the late 80s because all I had was a VT100. Actually, VT100 was Amber. That's what I was building these in the 80s. And now kids are building these now because they're cool again.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time since the 80s that this has been cool. Like normally, fashion comes in and out. Right? The looks from fashion have probably gone through about 3 cycles since the 80s. But I think now this is the cycle for the UI.
To me, this would be... Years ago, this would be so much more interesting because now with ZSH and autocorrects and what's not in terminals, I don't really need to remember commands anymore. As long as I used it a couple of times, it just kind of pops up.
Yep. Sebastian, I don't know if you've seen it. There was a new Jira CLI that was published a few weeks ago. I don't think we talked about it. I agree with this. The 80s are back. The 80s actually, in my head, never left. My mullet left, but that was the only thing that left. Anyway, this is now available as lazytrivy. Scan all local images, scanning a specific image, scanning a remote image. Right? All the cool little tools there.
But the real question is, should you be doing those types of operations yourself manually from your terminal?
I'm not arguing
outside of
point.
trying it out.
Hey, I'm not saying anything. Moving along. Okay, this is one I couldn't figure out the real life on this. JSON format. It's a JSON format or CLI. Correct me if I'm wrong on some of these points that he calls out.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, I've deployed some projects using KrakenD as an API gateway. Okay, whatever. The problem is the output JSON config is not formatted. That's hard to debug the configuration in the future. Agree, right? Anytime you get raw JSON, typically hard. Anytime. If you get raw JSON, it's hard, period. Okay.
You know, that's people really very often trash formats like YAML because you need to use a special format, right? Kind of like you need to indent, right, which is annoying.
Have you never used COBOL? Have you never used COBOL? You miss a space on COBOL, it'll break.
Yeah, but that's the part I actually like.
Right. It's built in.
I hate that. I really dislike that things like JSON. Oh yeah, I can write the whole thing in one line. Like I can go down the memory lane of me using Perl a long time ago, and I don't want that. I wanted to freak out when the space is missing. I want that.
Correct. Okay, so as a developer, blah blah blah. Okay, this is the sentence. So correct me if I'm wrong, and we're gonna have comments about this. I searched on the internet, but there is no command line Go CLI application that I can use in our GitHub workflows. So I decided to build it.
Okay, look at Sebastian's comment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I want to highlight this. No command line Go CLI application.
Okay, so Go.
That might...
CLIs, yes, JQ will do that for you. But if it must be in Go, but who cares? Kind of, I never understood that. If I use a CLI and I like a CLI, for all I care, it can be written in Perl. Why do I care?
So here's one reason why I semi-care. I think I semi-care. My eyes. So if we look at, where's GitHub? Where's the link? Okay. The last time it was touched was almost 4 years ago.
Okay.
Right? Again, it works, but then I'm putting on my security hat as like, okay, how many security holes are there here? Could there be a malformed JSON file that could trip JQ up to do something bad? I don't know.
Of course. And so there is a good reason, hypothetical, I haven't checked the releases, I don't know whether somebody's simply not updating news or really nothing is going on. But if there is a reason to do something similar to JQ, that's great. But the reason is not because it's not written in Go. That's what I'm saying.
Agreed. So anyway, getting off my high horse on this. It's built with Go, and this CLI v2, he's not using Cobra. I don't understand why, but different question. Built on top of JSON Pretty, which is forked from blah, blah, blah. And here are the releases, which actually has some pictures. So let me go over to the pictures here, because that's what really matters. So here's the UI. Oh, wait. I thought I had a picture. Maybe it doesn't. It does not. Oh. I thought he had a couple of examples. So I was incorrect by this. So I guess my point is here, going back to, I did that wrong. Going back to this, that should not be a reason to go and write an application because it doesn't exist in your language of choice. If it exists in a different language. That's all I'm saying. JQ has been out for decades.
Yeah.
Not decades, but for a very long time.
A long time.
And I would consider it to be considered, it's probably the most normal way, most accepted way to deal with JSON on the command line.
Yeah.
Okay. But this still may be a fine tool, right? It may do some things different than JQ, and that's fine. There was actually one thing here I did want to call out because I thought it was interesting. You could actually change the indent style, which I don't think you can do with JQ.
Yeah, never.
I don't
never
know.
went that deep.
But it's pretty cool. Right.
The moment I learned, the first day, whatever I learned in the first hour of JQ is what I use forever and ever.
95% of the time? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So there are a couple options here that could be interesting, like being able to sort. I can't remember if you can do that or not. I think you can, but it gets weirder, whereas here it's just a -s. So there may be some helpers here that make it easier than JQ. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
it could be better than JQ. I'm not saying that. Just
Yeah.
I got annoyed that the reason is it's in Go.
that because of that. That's what tripped me up. Okay. FF. This one I think I'm going to be installing later today after I look at it closer. It's a command line tool to manage favorite folders. Now, I could create aliases by hand. We were talking about omyzsh earlier. I could create aliases in a custom omyzhs, which, by the way, I've done that recently. It's the way to do everything. All of my configurations now are under source control, and I'm able to pull them into all my machines, whether or not I use them on that machine, different conversation, but a lot of things are common for me. But the one thing that's a pain is management of favorite folders. So the reason why I would do it in omyzsh is if I had the exact same folder structure on basically 3 machines that I'm using, which I don't.
Yeah.
Right? So this is a tool to where I might move off of that, and I can just now manage all of my favorite folders. Because I have lots of quote-unquote favorite folders. Like, I just need to get around to a folder that's the root of some project I'm working on. Because I'm going to be working in VI in that case and not in VS Code, because I already have code things set up for different conversation. So anyway, I thought this was cool as a point solution. Right? This does one thing and one thing only, going back to what we were talking about with Trivy earlier. Trivy is now adding in CSPM. But if I wanted to manage my folders, that's it. This is a way to do it. It's called FF. And finally, one more tool, and we're getting closer here. I think this is the one for the week. A simple tool to back up all of your repos on GitHub or Gitty to a local folder. Have you ever just wanted, it's like, give me the easy button and download everything right now? That's what this
I
is.
got lost. Can you repeat what it is? I got
A simple
confused.
tool
To back up all your repos. Ah, okay.
to a local folder.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of basically mass clone.
Correct. So in my
Okay,
case right now, I have 302 GitHub repositories, public and private.
Yeah.
I'm just getting started, right? I'm way lower than your number. So now if I wanted to back it all up, like to me, back it all up, zip it up, and ship it off to S3. Point in time.
Okay.
Right? That's what I
now-
would use this for.
Now we're talking about what if GitHub chooses to shut down?
Well, yeah, this would give me the ability to deal with those kinds of things too.
Yeah. I might be naive, but I just trust them that they will keep my code.
I agree. And I don't think they're going anywhere, not because it's GitHub, but because it's Microsoft.
Yeah.
Right? That's the part I am. But if I can back up a whole organization with one click, instead of having to build out and maintain scripts, because that would be the thing, right? I only have 300 repositories, but if I forgot to add the new repository to my backup script, that doesn't help me any. Whereas now I can say, point it at this org, and I'm done.
Nice.
I like it.
Why not?
I think this is the tool that you can say clone all orgs that this user is a part of. So it's not only that, it's like, who am I a part of? I might be a part of multiple organizations, right? Or I get added to an org.
I mean, these days, almost everybody is part of. You yourself
orgs.
are probably part of at least one organization, company you work in, plus you're private. That's already two.
Yeah, and any projects you might be working on the side. So, anyway, that is called. What was it called? Octo or is it Octa or Octo? It is Octarchive. Octarchive.
Octarchive, I guess.
Yeah, one word. Going from something that I can't say to something that I can spell. YTT.
YTT, yeah. It's one of those that I wasn't very... didn't show much interest to me. It was kind of a bit of a madness, but then every once in a while, for one reason or another, I need to touch it again and again and again and again, and the more time passes, the more I like it. There is a strong chance that it will be my manifest management type of tool of choice. Very likely. JSONet is a bit too complicated for my brain. That might be because I'm not really that bright. And YAML, Helm is just, the more time passes, I get more annoyed with Helm.
How could you get annoyed with Helm? It's the perfect markup language in YAML.
It's a perfect free text templating tool applied to data structure language called YAML. Now try to digest what I said, eh?
That's the problem. That's the real problem. Okay, let's rewind about however many years ago. If they would have not, the global they, would not have chosen YAML for everything Kubernetes, what would they have chosen? Would they have written their own?
I mean, actually, it's not YAML, it's YAML and JSON.
That's true.
And so I'm not even sure which one takes precedence. It's YAML and JSON. There is no third option. Third option would be XML, right? We're not going. I'm not going to XML if for no other reason because I still remember my days working with XSL.
XSLT,
No.
yeah, XSL.
Yeah, that madness. Do you know that I once I worked with an application that was 100% XSLT or whatever is the acronym. Everything.
It's miserable. Miserable.
I was never more miserable in my life.
And people still do it day to day because it's big for data interchange. So
yeah. Toml could be Toml. Toml is. I mean, it's not really that different from YAML, right?
It's different enough that it becomes annoying. It's like, wait, no, it should be. It's like your YAML fingers turn into Toml fingers that turn back into YAML fingers. That Okay. So next week, are we going to be here next week? We can be, I think, but we decided we're going to take one day off in August. I don't know if we're going to push that out. Now, I do know at the end of September, we will be taking a day off at the end. Like whatever the last Friday in September is, I'm going to be out of town and not near, I'll be driving. So I won't be online.
Yeah. So I don't know. You choose. I'm fine.
We'll see.
Starting September, my schedule
goes nuts.
I still don't know the schedule, but it will be drop-offs from my side.
Yeah. So there will be some Septembers that maybe we'll be here next week. If there's news this coming week, we'll be here next Friday. If not, we may take it off. So be watching on Thursday because Thursday I will post one way or the other. Thursday morning Eastern time, so by 9 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. CET, I will post whether or not we're doing a show next week or not. Because I schedule them on Thursday. So normally if we skipped, I haven't always posted that we're going to be skipping, but next Thursday, if we're going to skip, I will post that we're skipping.
So in this case, you can say no news is actually bad news.
Sure.
If it's not scheduled there, if you don't get a notification from YouTube, we're not doing it.
Oh, yeah. If you don't get a notification from YouTube, number one. If you don't see on the Twitter DevOps Paradox handle, you won't see it. So maybe we'll be here. Maybe we won't.
Life is mystery. You never know.
Life is always a mystery. Anything else? So let's talk about the things that are happening next week because these are things we know are happening. You have a video on Monday. We have a podcast on Wednesday. And then we're back Thursday with another AMA over on DevOps Toolkit.
Yes.
Do we have a guest for next? Thursday?
Yeah, it's Siam from Sivo.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember
Kubernetes
who it was.
distributions.
Got it.
I'm starting to question kind of the validity of putting the subject around database because it's always literally asking
Something
me
else.
anything.
Yeah. We just have guests on, so I don't have to be on camera. I'm usually behind punching the buttons, but it's good to give other
You're
people a
like
chance.
Wizard of Oz, right?
I am the person behind the curtain, which I enjoy. Okay. So let's call it a weekend. Everybody have a great weekend. And we may be back next week on Friday. We may not be. But we will be here Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we'll see about Friday. Just because even we need to have a life. And it's getting close to end of holiday for everybody. Right? Because things are... Like schools are starting, right?
Huh?
When does your daughter's school start? Next Monday?
Second or third week of September.
Oh, September. So she still has a few weeks. Okay.
Yeah, a few weeks, but
Okay. Yeah, schools here start Monday. This coming Monday.
that's one of those things I never understood. Kind of everybody goes to vacations during summer school break.
Yep.
If I would have no children, I would go any time but then.
But then, exactly.
Exactly.
Yes. That's my wife. In fact, when we're going to be in Florida that last week of September, all the schools are in.
Exactly.
So there's
cheaper,
a small,
less crowded. Nobody screams at your face all the time. Hey.
Yep. That's the time to do it. Okay. Enough of that. Thanks everybody for being here with us live. If you're with us live, go and give us a, what do we call it? Thumbs up. That's what it is.
Thumbs up. Yeah.
Thumbs up before you leave. And if you're watching the replay, thanks for hanging out. Again, we try to do these just about every Friday. So join us live one time if you're able to join us. All right. Thanks everybody. Have a great weekend and we will talk to you later.